Thank you very much for your kind introduction. Yes, we did hear the whole day that R&D is not sustainable. I think I'm obviously one of the people who believes it's sustainable if you do it right. And what's right and what's wrong, unfortunately, is never being told by the end of a year, but by the end of a decade or 20 years. So, you know, we can come up with lots of great ideas. The problem is we have to be measured for our success, not very often in our lifetime, but usually our successors will see whether we've done the right things or the wrong things. And we should just be all humble and be aware of that. Anyway, what I was about to talk to you about today was more our approach, how we look at innovation sourcing in the context of our R&D efforts. I will not talk today on our overall R&D strategy. We'll only spend a few words on our focus, but I want to make clear to this audience how we approach, in general, innovation sourcing. For innovation sourcing, we have formed an own unit which addresses all strategic aspects of our innovation sourcing strategy. And here I will talk a bit about the way how we look at strategic partnerships, the way how we go about crowdsourcing. I will tell you about our specific needs and expectations into science hubs, and will then sum up. I think everybody is aware of the fact that there are some macro trends evolving which we have to react on, which represent at the same time opportunity as well as very significant risks to our business. And I'm not going to reinvent the wheel here, although this looks like a wheel, but I think you all know about the fact that we will have a dramatic increase in medical need based on an aging population. And that is certainly an opportunity for us when it comes to covering medical need. At the same time, I think it's very clear to most of us that the requirement for innovation to get reimbursed will dramatically rise. There is very little belief right now in the pharma industry that in the future you will get reimbursement for incremental innovation, but only for real breakthrough, for real very significant innovation. And that, of course, increases the hurdle of what R&D has to deliver. And of course, we have to be aware that patients, consumers gain more and more influence. Meanwhile, if you go to the US, 70% of the patients which come to the doctor, they have already their diagnosis Googled. They tell the doctor what they want to get prescribed based on what they have Googled. And if the doctor doesn't want to prescribe to them what they have Googled, there's going to be a significant argument. So, I mean, that also will change the landscape of what innovation will have to deliver. And you all know that the emerging markets today will be, if we look at our research efforts, the mature markets in the future, and we should be very well aware already now what the medical need of those markets will be in 10 years from now. It's very important, therefore, that when it comes to R&D, we look at particular three aspects. The one is at the speed of R&D. Speed is very critical. If you look at a diagram which the data were provided already in 2012 years ago, the competition was fierce already then, and it's more dramatic now. Already then we had a situation that if you went into submission, in 90% of the cases there was a competitor already in phase 2. Meanwhile, this probably is already true for phase 3. In almost all cases when you go to submission, you have already a competitor coming up with a phase 3 compound. So speed is not just something sexy for a manager to ask everybody about, but speed is absolutely essential, especially in the future market where probably only number 1 and 2 will be a successful drug and not number 3, 4, 5 as it was in the past. We do need sustainable and breakthrough innovation pipeline. Like I said, it's not going to be enough just to get something approved as it was in the past, but you really want to have a very significant innovation jump. Otherwise, it's going to be a significant problem to get something reimbursed. And of course, needless to say, we're always going to be under significant cost pressure in R&D. My boss tells me every day that I'm spending too much money. Therefore, we have to look continuously in improving our organization and making them more efficient. If you look at all those key aspects, what we need to address clearly, one aspect we must address is the question of external innovation, which I certainly believe is an important option to address a number of the R&D challenges. And of course, it's a question of how do you best go about getting into the right partnerships with the right models. What is your strategy to identify the real opportunities? And for me, my organization, we come up with a rather simple model why we think there is a win-win situation always possible for partnerships. On the one hand, I see as a more critical aspect of my organization, and of course, continuously increasing focus. In order to be highly competitive and be sure that what I'm doing really can beat the competition, I focus on much fewer therapeutic areas than I did in the past. We're down now to 3-4 areas maximum, and I focus only on a couple of key technology platforms to be very competitive there. Now, that of course means that a number of aspects I will not be able to address internally, but of course there is a very complementary aspect coming from the outside, from biotech or academia, where of course, you know, you have a plethora of individual companies with a plethora of individual technologies and assets in diverse therapeutic areas. On the other hand, this strong focus also results in very high technological expertise in the industry organization, which then can be used and leveraged by biotech partners and academic partners to really together bring innovation forward in a real alliance or partnering approach. So if I look at our innovation sourcing strategies, there are several types of partnering we are engaged in. On the one hand, we are reasonably engaged in pre-competitive partnering, and you may have all heard about the Innovative Medicine Initiative as one very significant initiative, how we address general pharma problems in big conglomerates. Then, of course, there are some strategic partnerships which are planned with a clear focus on our strategic priorities for the mid and the long term. Then, of course, we want to make sure that we don't miss out on the worldwide idea pool and do crowdsourcing. Finally, we have a pipeline which is, of course, associated with significant risk. And as a company our size, just looking at the plenary discussion we had an hour ago, our size means that we have as much R&D budget as Pfizer just cut last year. It's important that our pipeline is very well managed and also co-developed with the right partners in order to mitigate risk and really bring into our organization the right resource and expertise we may not have with our size. And finally, we do believe that there is a special need and value in generating science hub in specific regions where you can dig deeper into the innovation pool of particular hot scientific areas. Strategic partnership. Being in Singapore, I certainly wanted to have a Singapore slide, and I would say that we have really established over the past few years significant interactions and probably what I would call meanwhile a real strategic interaction with a number of Singaporean institutes, which are all listed here. And they're all actually trying to accomplish a couple of important goals. The one is really establish a translational platform. We have more or less a value chain of institutes lined up which works with us together from target identification down to proof of concept trials, and I'll show that later. And of course, in that context, of course, the Asian aspect of what we're doing in drug discovery and development is particularly important. Here's an example of what I've just said, where you can see that based on the type and the character of the institution we're working with, we can really address more or less the entire value chain, working again, first in identifying the right target with the right partner, then working with leads with another partner, and finally getting into phase 1 studies or proof of concept studies with a third partner. All of those are very tightly connected, and all 3 of them are very tightly connected to our research heads and work very well together with them. And that's a model which we have established over the past 2-3 years, which now really starts to pay out for us. There's another important collaboration in one of our focus areas, which is oncology, which is our strategic collaboration with the German Cancer Research Center. It's a huge research organization with more than 2,000 scientists in oncology. And basically what we did with them is something similar, what we are doing here in Singapore, which is also, again, establishing more or less an entire value chain from target identification with the right partners down to proof of concept studies. So we do together with them in a very joint and very equal rights collaboration, identify targets, take them forward together, and then do proof of concept studies then in the NCT in Heidelberg. We do take learnings on the biomarker side back and generate new target identification projects from them. That's a collaboration or a partnership which works because we could build up trust. I think the major hurdle when we started interacting with the German Cancer Research Center was that, on the one hand, a big pharma company like ours, which really invented aspirin, really knows what it's all about, they have to tell those academics what to do. And those academics, they don't trust those big guys from pharma, which really have no idea from basic science. And getting those two together and taking arrogance away from both parts and making both parts humble and trustful has really helped going forward. And I have to say, we have now a situation generated with this group of people under the leadership of Ottmar Liesler, which is really incredible. I mean, the scientists meet on a very regular basis. We exchange scientists. Our scientists are in the German Cancer Research Center. Professors from there come, postdocs from there come into our labs. And that is really an alliance which I have to say is best in class from my judgment. We then, of course, look for very specific gaps in our portfolio for which we don't have the resources or the capabilities to invest in ourselves, building up internal capabilities ourselves. Such an area, for example, is the cancer stem cell area. And for that, we established a very specific partnership with one partner, which we believe is maybe the best partner in that area, which is Oncomet in San Francisco. With them, we're addressing the Wnt pathway. The interesting thing with Oncomet is that, on the one hand, they're certainly leading in understanding the mechanisms by which cancer stem cells at some point differentiate and therefore can be prevented from differentiation later on. But they saw in us an attractive partner because they address all their mechanisms with biologics, and they believe that we can address downstream mechanisms with small molecules. And therefore we appear to them as an attractive partner based on our scientific expertise, not just based on the fact that we pay them money. And again, that is something which, at least in my experience, always results in the best partnerships. If there are two partners which share expertise, which share a certain knowledge, and really for that reason appreciate each other. And again, this is an example of where scientists sit together very regularly and come up with ideas together. Crowdsourcing, very important. There's just so much unordered, widely scattered innovation around, and very often we just don't get our hands around that innovation. And we try by all means to identify possibilities to do so. And one thing we've done, which actually has paid out quite nicely, was our what we called Grants for Targets initiative, which gives you the rationale. Again, here, lots of mechanism targets exist, but are not really tangible for us or visible for us. And the idea really was, is there a way of very easily getting that innovation into our system? And we therefore identified a very easy accessible internet site, and we advertised for that. It shows a very simple submission tool, extremely low bureaucratic burden for both partners, for us as well as for the ones who read what we want from them. Very clear communication, and we have a fast processing, so if somebody pushes the button, and it's actually a multiple choice button, so people are actually used to that from classes in the university, you can very quickly submit a grant in the area of our interest, and you get within 3 weeks a response, whether that is for us interesting to just look at, interesting to work together with them, and therefore we just support what they are doing, or we would want to have a contract with them. And these are the ideas, and that has worked out. So in case you want to submit something, next deadline is March 31st, so if you work hard, you have another 10 days to submit a grant to us. It's very easy. It leads you through those areas very intuitively, and we have meanwhile had hundreds of proposals with a granting rate of about 15 to 20%. Science hubs, again, very important to us is that in certain areas we really have some people on the ground which can dig deeper into the existing networks there. And these two areas are San Francisco, the Bay Area on the one hand, and Beijing as the other major area. It goes without saying that, of course, within Germany we have a pretty well-established network in which we address all sorts of academic and biotech partners. I'm not going to talk too much about those areas, except that I certainly would want to point out the fact that China we are in when it comes to innovation sourcing, not because we believe we can get innovation cheap, but because we believe the innovation potential of this area is growing, and it is right now the best time to get into it where it is still growing. It may be a much worse time to get into the Beijing or Shanghai area once everything is fully blown and fully established. Here are just listed our main interactions and main partnerships we have established so far. Tsinghua University, where we have formed together with the Tsinghua University a joint research center of innovative drug discovery, and where we will very soon announce a couple of Bayer professorships. With Epitomics, we're working together, generate rapid monoclonal antibodies for target validation. The 301 hospital is an important partner for us, best-in-class hospital with significant experience in endometriosis, one of our focus areas, and of course all the biological material you need, almost unlimited available, very important. And of course we are, as one of our new areas, working together with a partner in ophthalmology, which is the Tongren Hospital. So there we found a number of partners which can, along a quite significant area of our value chain, work together with us to address specific gaps we have. So what I try to tell you is, without talking about the entire R&D strategy of our organization, that external innovation really is a key for us, and we have spent significant effort and resources over the past 5-6 years to significantly increase our external innovation efforts. We are looking into all sorts of very flexible partnership models. There's basically nothing which is impossible for us when it comes to models. We would always want to go for win-win situations. I am not a big believer in I pay you serve setups. I really think the best collaborations are one where two partners can learn, two partners can contribute and appreciate each other. Of course, we're looking for complementary expertise wherever this is possible, and of course, one piece of our innovation strategy or then of the R&D strategy when it comes to the later pipeline is risk mitigation. If you have any question about innovation sourcing, we have one hat in my management team responsible for that, which is Helmut Haning, and you can address him at any time. This is it from my side. Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to questions. If there are questions.
Wow, thank you very much. We're 5 minutes late, but we have time for one question.
Hello, Andreas. I'm just curious about all your external innovations and partnerships. What percentage of your products in earlier late-stage development do you think come from academic and biotech partnerships?
I can't tell you. I can only tell you what I hope what will come. A, for sure, it'll be more in the future than it was in the past. B, we have already now a number of compounds in the pipeline where I would say very significant pieces of it come from partners, either lead structures or the target or whatever, and one has to now distinguish between what comes from a partner. Overall, I would say we will be in a situation that we will have a portfolio where 30 to 40% of the projects will have a very significant impact from a partner, whether it's target, whether it's lead structure, compound, very significant clinical expertise, that remains to be determined. But I would think we'll have a portfolio where probably 30 to 40% of the project will have a very significant impact from a partner.